Sir, I've asked you twice. You need to step outside the lounge.
I showed you my access pass.
It's not scanning in the system.
That sounds like a system problem.
It becomes your problem if you don't comply.
Are you removing everyone whose card doesn't scan?
I'm removing you.
On what basis?
Failure to provide valid credentials. Keep your hands where I can see
I
them.
am reaching for identification.
That doesn't authorize lounge.
Marcus Chin had 2 PhDs, 17 years of classified service, and a government security clearance that would make most senators jealous. None of it mattered when Officer Derek Hastings decided he didn't belong in the American Airlines Admirals Club at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport. What happened next wasn't just embarrassing, it was a masterclass in the catastrophic cost of assumptions, and it was all captured on body cam footage that would eventually force a federal investigation, a 6-figure settlement, and a complete overhaul of airport security protocols across 3 states. Before we continue, what city are you watching from? If this is your first time listening, support the channel by liking and subscribing. Stories like this need to be told, and with your help, we can make sure these events don't go unheard. This is the story of how one cop's bias collided with one of the most protected identities in American intelligence, and how the entire encounter unraveled in less than 18 minutes. Marcus Chin wasn't supposed to exist in public records. Born in Philadelphia to Taiwanese immigrants, he'd graduated summa cum laude from Georgetown at 19. By 23, he had a doctorate in international relations and another in Arabic linguistics. By 25, he was recruited by the Central Intelligence Agency during a lecture he gave on Middle Eastern geopolitical fractures at a think tank in Virginia. For 17 years, Marcus had operated in shadows most Americans couldn't imagine. He'd coordinated intelligence operations in Jordan, embedded with military units in Afghanistan, and spent 18 months undercover in Beirut tracking financial networks tied to extremist cells. He'd been shot at twice, survived a car bombing in Baghdad, spoke 6 languages fluently. He had the kind of resume that never appeared on LinkedIn. But on October 14, 2023, Marcus wasn't in a war zone. He was in Terminal D at DFW, wearing a tailored Navy suit, black Oxfords, and a carry-on bag that contained nothing more dangerous than a laptop and a change of clothes. He just finished a 2-week consultation with Homeland Security in Washington, D.C. Work so classified he couldn't even tell his wife the details. He was exhausted. His flight to Los Angeles didn't leave for another 3 hours, so he did what any first-class passenger with lounge access would do. He walked into the Admirals Club. The lounge was exactly what you'd expect. Muted gray carpets, leather chairs arranged in tasteful clusters, a self-service bar stocked with mid-shelf liquor, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the tarmac. Soft jazz played through invisible speakers. Business travelers tapped on laptops. A family near the window spoke quietly in Spanish. Marcus checked in at the front desk. The attendant, a young woman named Stephanie, according to her name tag, scanned his boarding pass and smiled. "Welcome back, Mr. Chin. Help yourself to anything." He thanked her, grabbed a sparkling water from the bar, and settled into a leather armchair near the back of the lounge. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through emails he couldn't respond to on unsecured networks, and exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. For 11 minutes, nothing happened. Then Officer Derek Hastings walked in. Let's pause here and talk about what DFW International Airport represented in October 2023. This wasn't just a travel hub, it was a nervous system. Nearly 75 million passengers moved through DFW annually, making it one of the busiest airports in the world. Post 9/11 security culture had calcified into something permanent. TSA agents, local police, federal air marshals, and private security contractors all operated in overlapping jurisdictions. Everyone was watching, everyone was suspicious, and everyone had a different idea of what suspicious looked like. Officer Derek Hastings was a 29-year-old member of the DFW Department of Public Safety, essentially the airport's police force. He'd been on the job for 4 years. Before that, he'd worked mall security in Plano. He had a high school diploma, 6 months of police academy training, and a badge that gave him authority over one of the largest airports in America. His performance reviews were mixed. Supervisors noted he was eager, but occasionally overzealous. There'd been 2 complaints filed against him in 3 years, both dismissed. One involved a confrontation with a passenger he claimed was acting erratically. The passenger was a diabetic, experiencing low blood sugar. Hastings had a problem. He saw threats everywhere. And on this particular afternoon, walking through the Admiral's Club on what his supervisor later called a routine sweep, he saw Marcus Chin, a black man, alone in expensive clothes, in a space that statistically skewed older, whiter, wealthier. Hastings didn't see a federal agent. He saw someone who didn't belong. Marcus didn't notice Hastings at first. He was reading an article on his phone, something about Senate Intelligence Committee hearings, when a shadow fell across his chair. He looked up. A white male officer, medium build, buzz cut, hand resting casually on his duty belt, stood 3 feet away. His expression was neutral, but his posture wasn't. Feet planted, shoulders square, the body language of someone preparing for confrontation. "Afternoon," Hastings said. His voice was polite, too polite, the kind of politeness that came with an edge. "Can I see your boarding pass?" Marcus blinked. "I'm sorry?" "Your boarding pass, an ID." There was a pause, the kind of pause that changes the temperature of a room. Marcus glanced around. No one else was being asked for documentation. A white couple near the bar sat unbothered. An older man in a golf shirt scrolled through his iPad. The family by the windows continued their conversation, just him. "I already checked in at the desk," Marcus said evenly. He kept his tone calm, neutral. He'd been trained for de-escalation in far more dangerous situations than this. "Is there a problem?" Hastings' jaw tightened, just slightly. "Sir, I'm asking you to show me your boarding pass and identification." Marcus felt something familiar settle into his chest. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was recognition. He'd felt this before. In college, when a campus security guard followed him across the quad at 9 p.m., assuming he didn't belong. In a hotel lobby in Frankfurt, when a concierge asked if he was looking for someone. In 100 small interactions across 17 years where his credentials, his education, his authority meant nothing compared to the color of his skin. But Marcus Chen hadn't survived in intelligence by being reckless. So he reached into his jacket pocket slowly and pulled out his phone. "My boarding pass is digital," he said. He opened the American Airlines app, pulled up his ticket, first class, seat 2A, Los Angeles departure, 6:47 p.m. Hastings barely glanced at it. ID. Marcus pulled out his wallet, extracted his driver's license. California. Clean. Current. Hastings took it, studied it for longer than necessary. "What's your business here?" he asked, and there it was, the question that crossed the line. "My business," Marcus repeated. His voice was still calm, but something had shifted. "Yeah. What brings you to Dallas?" Marcus tilted his head slightly. "Am I being detained?" Hastings' expression hardened. "I'm asking you a question. And I'm asking if I'm being detained, because if I'm not, then I don't have to answer your questions. I'm a passenger. I've checked in. I have lounge access. I'm sitting in a chair drinking water." A few heads turned now. The lounge had gone quieter. Hastings stepped closer. "Sir, I'm going to need you to cooperate." "I am cooperating. I showed you my boarding pass. I showed you my ID. What else do you need? I need you to answer my questions." "On what grounds?" Hastings' hand moved to his radio. "We've had reports of someone suspicious in this area." Marcus almost laughed. "Suspicious? That's right. And what about me is suspicious?" Hastings didn't answer. He didn't have to. Marcus leaned back in his chair. He should have let it go. He knew that. He'd been trained to avoid unnecessary conflict, to blend in, to disappear. But 17 years of being invisible had worn him down. 17 years of swallowing humiliation for the sake of operational security, for the sake of not making waves, for the sake of keeping his head down. Not today. "Officer," Marcus said quietly, "I'm going to ask you one more time. Am I being detained?" Hastings keyed his radio. "This is Hastings. I need a supervisor to the Admiral's Club, Terminal D." Marcus's jaw clenched. This was happening. By now, everyone in the lounge was watching. A middle-aged woman in a pantsuit had her phone out. recording. The family by the window had gone silent. Even the bartender had stopped pouring drinks. Marcus remained seated, hands visible, posture relaxed. He knew the optics. He knew that any sudden movement, any escalation would be used against him. Hastings stood over him, arms crossed, waiting for backup. 2 minutes later, another officer arrived. Sergeant Linda Vasquez, a 12-year veteran of DFW Public Safety. She looked at Hastings, then at Marcus, then back at Hastings. "What's going on?" she asked. "This individual refused to provide proper identification," Hastings said. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. "That's a lie." Vasquez raised a hand. "Sir, please." "I showed him my boarding pass and my driver's license. He's the one who escalated." Vasquez turned to Hastings. "You ran his ID?" "Not yet." "Then run it." Hastings hesitated. Then he walked a few feet away, pulled out his phone, and began typing. Vasquez looked at Marcus. Her expression was unreadable. "I apologize for the inconvenience, sir. We'll get this sorted out." Marcus said nothing. 30 seconds later, Hastings returned. His face had gone pale. "Sarge," he said quietly, "we got a problem." Vasquez stepped closer. "What kind of problem?" Hastings lowered his voice, but in the silence of the lounge, everyone heard it. His license flagged federal. Vasquez's eyes widened. "Federal? High-level clearance. It's telling me to contact a DOJ liaison." For the first time, Hastings looked at Marcus differently. Not with suspicion, with fear. Marcus stood up slowly. He reached into his jacket. Both officers tensed and pulled out a slim leather bifold. He opened it. Inside was a badge, gold, official, with an eagle embossed at the top and 3 letters below it, CIA, and beneath that, an identification card with Marcus's photo, his full name, and a classification level that made Hastings' face drain of color. "My name is Marcus Chen," Marcus said, his voice cold and measured. "I'm a senior intelligence officer with the Central Intelligence Agency. I've been working at a secure facility in Washington, D.C. for the past 2 weeks on matters that are classified above your pay grade, above your supervisor's pay grade, and probably above your chief's pay grade." He let that hang in the air. "I came into this lounge because I have first-class lounge access. I sat down, I drank water, I minded my own business, and you decided, for reasons I can only speculate about, that I was suspicious." Hastings opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Vasquez stepped in. "Mr. Chen, I am so sorry." "Don't." Marcus's voice was sharp. "Don't apologize to me. Apologize to every person of color who's been harassed in this airport because someone like him," he gestured at Hastings, "decided they didn't look like they belonged." The lounge was dead silent. Marcus tucked his credentials back into his jacket. "I want his badge number. I want his supervisor's name. And I want a formal incident report filed within the hour." Vasquez nodded quickly. "Absolutely, of course." Hastings still hadn't moved. His face was red now, humiliation mixed with anger. He looked like he wanted to say something to defend himself, but Vasquez shot him a glare that could have melted steel. "Go wait outside," she told him. Hastings left without a word. Here's what most people don't know about airport police. They wear body cams. Every interaction, every confrontation, every word recorded. Officer Derek Hastings' body cam had been running from the moment he walked into the Admiral's Club. It captured everything. His approach, his questions, his tone, Marcus's calm responses, the escalation, the backup, the credentials, and most damningly, it captured the moment Hastings walked away and muttered, just loud enough for the microphone to pick up, "Fucking unbelievable." That footage would eventually be subpoenaed by Marcus's attorney, but before that, it was reviewed internally by DFW Public Safety. And when the deputy chief watched it, sitting in his office 3 days later, he reportedly said 5 words, "We are so fucked," because this wasn't just a bad stop. This was a civil rights violation captured in 4K. And Marcus Chen wasn't just any victim. He was a federal intelligence officer with the resources, the connections, and the clearance to make this a national story. Within a week, the footage leaked. Not officially. Someone in the department, maybe someone disgusted by what they saw, maybe someone with an axe to grind, sent it to a local news station. From there, it went to Twitter, then Reddit, then national outlets. CIA agent racially profiled by airport cop became a trending headline. The video went viral, 10 million views in 72 hours. The response was immediate and brutal. American Airlines issued a statement within 48 hours, distancing themselves from DFW Public Safety and offering Marcus a formal apology, complimentary upgrades for life, and an undisclosed compensation package rumored to be in the mid-five figures. The DFW Department of Public Safety placed Officer Derek Hastings on administrative leave pending an investigation, but that wasn't enough. The ACLU got involved. So did the NAACP. Civil rights attorneys from 3 different firms reached out to Marcus, offering to represent him pro bono. Marcus chose the most aggressive one. Within 2 months, a federal lawsuit was filed, not just against Hastings, against the entire DFW public safety apparatus, the city of Dallas, and the airport authority. The lawsuit alleged racial profiling, unlawful detention, violation of civil rights under the 4th and 14th Amendments, and emotional distress. It sought $2.5 million in damages and a court-mandated overhaul of airport security training protocols. The city fought it for a while, but when the body cam footage was played in a preliminary hearing, with Marcus's attorneys breaking down every moment, every microaggression, every illegal question, the city's lawyers knew they couldn't win. In March 2024, they settled. The terms were confidential, but sources close to the case reported the payout was north of $750,000. Marcus also secured agreements for mandatory bias training for all DFW public safety officers, quarterly audits of stop and question incidents, and the implementation of a civilian oversight board. Officer Derek Hastings was terminated. He appealed. The appeal was denied. As of this recording, he works private security at a warehouse in Fort Worth. But here's the question that haunts this story. How many times has this happened to someone who wasn't a CIA agent? How many Black travelers, Latino families, Muslim passengers have been pulled aside, questioned, humiliated, detained, not because they did anything wrong, but because someone in a uniform decided they looked out of place? How many of those encounters weren't recorded? How many victims didn't have the resources to fight back? Marcus Chin had a badge that commanded respect. He had credentials that made people fear him. He had the institutional power to force accountability. Most people don't. And that's the real tragedy here, because this wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom, a glimpse into a system where bias, whether conscious or not, operates unchecked until someone with enough power forces it into the light. Studies show that Black passengers are 2.5 times more likely to be stopped by TSA for additional screening, that Arab and Muslim travelers report being profiled at nearly double the rate of white passengers, that even in so-called neutral spaces like airport lounges, assumptions about who belongs and who doesn't shape every interaction. Derek Hastings didn't invent that system, but he perpetuated it. And when he approached Marcus Chin in that lounge, he made a bet. He bet that Marcus was just another Black man who'd comply, who'd swallow the humiliation, who'd move on. He lost that bet. But how many times has that same bet been won? Marcus Chin still flies American Airlines. He still uses the Admirals Club. But he told reporters in a rare interview 6 months after the settlement that he never sits in the same spot. He never relaxes completely. He never forgets that in certain spaces his credentials matter less than his skin. "I've spent 17 years serving this country," he said. "I've risked my life in places most Americans will never see. And the moment I took off the uniform, the moment I stepped into civilian life, I became just another Black man who didn't look like he belonged." He paused. That tells you everything you need to know about who we are as a society. The lawsuit changed policies. It cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars. It ended a cop's career. But it didn't change the reflex that looks at someone and decides in a fraction of a second whether they belong. That reflex is still there, in airports, in stores, in neighborhoods, in 1,000 small interactions every single day. And until we confront it, really confront it, not with training seminars or PR statements, but with a fundamental reckoning about who we see as threatening and why, stories like Marcus Chin's will keep happening. The only question is whether the next person will have a badge powerful enough to fight back. If this story made you think, drop a comment. Tell me about a time you were profiled or witnessed it happen. Share this video. Let's make sure stories like Marcus's don't disappear into the algorithm, because the only thing more dangerous than bias is silence. See you in the next one.